Goldman Sachs says the U.S. real estate market is slowing down. We have a tight rental market here in Canada. And if you like chicken, well, this news may not be good for you. This is the Ken Parkin Real Estate Podcast. Hi, and welcome to the Ken Parkin Real Estate Podcast, where we talk real estate, business, and how it affects you in your everyday life. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this amazing episode. Welcome back to another edition. I think we're on episode 15 of the Ken Parkin Real Estate Podcast. Today, I wanted to talk, about a few things, but there's some interesting things happening in the world of business and finance that all relate back to our local real estate economy. And I wanted to touch briefly on a few of these subjects. I'm trying to keep the podcast to 15 minutes or less. I know everybody's busy, and I appreciate you taking the time to listen to what I have to talk about and give you my perspective. Thank you so much for the comments and feedback as well. I really do appreciate them. We are entering into the Christmas market. It is going to be December 1st, this coming weekend. Today is November 28th. How crazy is that? 2018, gone. 2019 is right around the corner, and I'm excited. I think 2019 has a lot in store. We are going to see a lot of changes, I think, coming to this real estate market. I think we're going to see some changes coming to the local business market in the GTA, and probably some changes really to the world in terms of how we operate as not only in business, but as human beings. So 2019 is in my opinion, going to be a pretty big year. And listen, there's a lot of market indicators that are showing that the real estate market in particular, as well as the business market, is potentially slowing down a little bit. It's not a bad thing. And I want to come out and address these concerns. I've had some people talk to me about how the real estate market is slowing down, and there's some fear that it's going to go off a cliff. I am not an optimist that goes into a situation blindly. I'm not always going to be positive about a negative situation if there's nothing to be positive about. I'm always going to try and find something positive about it, but the reality is we are entering into a stable real estate market with lots of market indicators, some of them being, and not limited to, we have a lot of immigration, and people with money coming into the country. That's number one. So much so that they've had to put foreign buyer taxes on in Toronto and Vancouver. So there's a huge highlight there in terms of immigration, number one. Number two, we have a demographic shift coming. Massive demographic shift coming where we've got baby boomers, people basically over the age of 50. I don't know the actual number. I don't know if it's 45 or 55, but we have these baby boomers who have been fairly financially diligent with their funds. They may not be worth millions, but typically I think about 60-70% have their homes paid for, maybe a small home line of credit. But there's going to be a market shift with baby boomers in our economy, not just in real estate, but it's going to affect how healthcare is controlled and distributed. It's going to affect our real estate economy. It's going to affect the millennials, their children, Gen Xers, their children who are going to be receiving inheritances. And their parents are now passing on and potentially leaving baby boomers some funds as well. So there's going to be a huge shift in the marketplace for everything because of these demographics, and the media doesn't really talk about that. They put out articles about, the sky's falling and the markets are horrible and this and that. And not that what they're reporting isn't true, but there's a lot of factors that go into why things are happening. And I am a trend guy. I like to watch trends because I feel if we look back, we can sort of predict the future in terms of what can potentially be coming. But as trends happen, they tend to not happen again. Case in point, we haven't really had another .com bust. Really, we haven't. We haven't really had another mortgage crisis. We had one in the late 70s before I was born, in early 80s. And I was born in 84, if anybody's asking. And then we had a mortgage crisis really in the United States back in 2007, 8, and 9. In that range is when it happened, along with some other factors that played into it as well. But Canada avoided, for the most part, the mortgage crisis in 2008. And so... And really, it's because of financial diligence. The banks are extremely tight up here in Canada. Very tight. And it's not a bad thing, but it is extremely hard to qualify and get a mortgage, especially if you're self-employed. But that being said, I don't see a major crash coming anytime soon, really, to any market. I think with the Republicans in power down in the U.S., they tend to cut regulation, slash taxes, and really want the population to buy homes and invest in real estate and then invest in businesses. They cut corporate taxes and all those things. So I think while the Republicans have some sort of control in the United States, I think their market's going to stay fairly stable. Granted, President Trump can go off the handle, as we've seen in multiple occasions, and have a Twitter rant or something happen or something said, which can affect the global economy. So there's a bit of a wild card there with President Trump. But how it relates to the Canadian economy is we're basically the little brother, like the baby brother, to the Americans. They have a 10 times X of our economy. We're about 35 million people, and they're about 350 million people, so that are registered. So what happens down there typically happens up here. That being said, the mortgage crisis in 2008 did not. And so when I'm bringing this all back to trends, I think it's going to be interesting because I don't think as the market here now in 2018, you're probably going to listen to this in a month, so 2019 starts to slow a little bit. It's more going back to regular business as usual. How the real estate market should be, how lending practices should be. And that's not a bad thing. That is not a bad thing. I think we need to take that in stride and learn how to do business, how it should be done. That being said, Goldman Sachs has come out and said that the U.S. housing market is slowing and expect this trend to continue. Well, as we just talked about, the market down in the U.S. as well has been on a crazy tear. From 2014 to 2017, home prices appreciation accelerated from roughly 4% to around 7%. Over the next 3 years, Goldman Sachs expects that appreciation to slide back to 3 to 4% annual pace, meaning if you had a $100,000 home, every year it would appreciate approximately 7% or $7,000. Now they're saying it's going to be between 3 and 4% or $3,000 to $4,000. So if you own the home for 5 years, you would expect it at 3% to roughly be around $115,000 to $120,000. And that's fairly standard. 10 years, you're looking at basically a 30% plus or minus appreciation. That's kind of in line with a realistic appreciation model. And I think Canada is falling in line with that as well. So it's good to see that a major bank, a major investment firm coming out and talking about the slowdown, talking about how it's not a crisis, but that with different rates and different tax policy changes when it comes to single family homes, it's going to slow down the real estate market a little bit. And quite honestly, I'm totally fine with that. The three hot markets, though, down there, Seattle, San Jose, and Nashville, all saw a home price increase or rise of more than 11% from 16 to 17 in December. So there are still pockets in the U.S. where the market, it's going crazy. Are you looking to rent a home in Toronto or Vancouver or in Canada? Pick a spot. Canada's overall vacancy rate dropped for a second year in a row. More people are looking to rent a home as the rent demand grew at a faster pace than the supply, according to CMHC, the Canadian Housing and Mortgage Corporation, in its annual rental market survey. The housing agency said 2018 was down 2.4% for vacancy rates, and that's down from 3% in 2017, meaning there's less properties available on the market. For every 100 apartments in Canada, only 2.4 were available for rent. That means 98.5%, 6%, someone has occupied. The demand for rental housing grew at a faster pace. It found that the number of occupied units climbed by 2.5% in 2018 or October 2018, compared with an increase of 1.9% from October of 2017. Ontario, BC, and Manitoba all saw increases in these areas, while Quebec, Alberta, Saskatchewan, they saw declines. Again, it's one thing to give a market scope for Canada. It's another thing to talk about it in specific pockets. What is key for local? Anybody listening locally in Toronto, the vacancy rates in Toronto and Vancouver were stable, but at very low levels of 1.1% and 1% in Vancouver. Insane, meaning for every 100 apartments that has a renter in it, only one was available, which talks about and goes back to how crazy the asking price for these rentals are, because when there's so much demand and there's zero supply, you can kind of ask for anything. The report, which looked at purpose-built rental units and condo apartments available for rent, found the average two-bedroom apartment jumped by 3.5% in October of 2017 to 2018 of the same month. The increase was higher than inflation, which it wasn't that much higher, 0.5%. 0.75%. BC saw the largest climb in rent. Kelowna recorded a crazy increase of almost 10%, 9.5%. Saskatchewan, they only saw it go up by 0.5%. In October, Vancouver had the highest average monthly rental of a two-bedroom apartment at $1,649, followed by Toronto at $1,467. Calgary was at $1,272. The lowest rent, though, was in Quebec at $601. Pretty crazy. So if you're looking to rent, and I think a lot of people are. I think now that affordability in housing is where it is, it's going to be extremely hard to find something to buy that suits your needs. So renting kind of makes more sense. I'm actually going to do a podcast and probably a video on the advantages of renting over owning and the advantages of owning over renting, and why it's actually probably more advantageous to rent than it is to own. I sell real estate, so I'm not talking anybody out of buying. But in certain scenarios, it does make sense to rent. But as you can see, a lot of people are taking that advice, and there's no apartments available for rent. Do you like chicken? I love chicken. I don't know how much chicken you eat, but I eat a lot of it. And this comes of no surprise as we see manufacturers like GM close down some plants. Maple Leaf is following behind. The title is misleading. It says that they're going to build a $660 million poultry plant. Awesome. But then it follows up with, but they're going to close 3 others. So, okay, let's dissect this. Chicken is the most consumed and fastest growing meat protein in Canada. Maple Leaf Foods is building a $660 million fresh poultry facility in London, Ontario, that will enhance the ability to process higher margin products by closing 3 aging plants in the province. And GM's plant in Oshawa was built in 1956, I believe, so it was an aging plant as well. The protein company will invest close to $605 million into the plant that will serve Eastern Canada, an additional $5 million into related products over the next 5 years, while $35 million of that money is going to come from the Ontario government, additional $28 coming from the federal government. It's going to lead, though, all of this is going to lead to a net reduction of 300 jobs. It's hard to talk about job loss and where we are as a society with it, but I guess it is just reality of life. And I feel sorry for people that have gone through and are going through and will lose their jobs due to the modernization of how we eat, how we process things, how we make things. It's going to be definitely a challenge. The three plants that are going to close, they're going to close by 2022. McCain said that the plant is the largest single site investment ever made in Canada food product, that being in London. The St. Mary's plant is expected to close in late 2021, and the Toronto and Brampton facilities are going to close by mid to late 2022. Those plants have served us well. They are now 50 to 60 years old and severely growth constrained because of location, footprint, and or infrastructure, and nearing the end of their productive capacity, said McCain. Who is McCain? Michael McCain is the Maple Leaf CEO. He deeply regrets the impact on his existing employees, but the plan will allow it to earn an extra $105 million in adjusted EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. So basically, they're really just looking to reduce costs and make a plant that's a little bit more, in today's technology, allow them to grow and expand even further. It just comes at the job loss of 300 people. Doug Ford and federal ministers, they praise the project. New initiative will modernize processing and make Ontario's chicken farmers more competitive. The federal economic minister, Navdeep Bains, I apologize, I'm butchering names again, said that the project will keep Canada competitive in the global market and create new middle-class jobs in Ontario. London is a significant food and beverage processing hub. They've got more than 60 companies employing more than 7,000 people. That includes Labatt, McCormick, Dr. Edgar, and Nestle, to name a few. Established in 1991, Maple Leaf Foods employs more than 11,000 people across Canada and exports to more than 20 global markets. For a bonus feature for today's podcast, if you live in the Burlington area and your name is Paula Castano, you are $100,000 richer. She won the Lotto Max Encore draw. She matched 6 of the 7 Encore numbers in exact order, and it was purchased at the Burlington Lotto on Guelph Line in Burlington. Don't forget to play your lottery numbers. You just never know. You might win. Thank you so much for listening to the Ken Parkin podcast. I have a $50 gift card I'm doing a draw for on December 1st. The contest closes at the last day of November. I believe it's the 30th. If you're considering a Home Depot gift card and you want to give it to someone for Christmas, or you want to use it for yourself for selfish reasons, please enter the contest. Go to my Facebook page, Ken Parkin Real Estate. You've got to like the page. There's a video there. Go and find it and like the video and comment done. You're entered into the contest. That way I know you've watched the video, you've liked the page, I can enter you in. For a second chance to win, share it on your own Facebook page. Say how amazing I am, and I will love you even more for doing so. So, Home Depot gift card giveaway. One other thing, we are doing more interviews with local businesses. It's really going to be a hit. This first interview we've done with Jason at the Golf Academy is just a fire episode. It really highlights the importance of indoor golf if you're an avid golfer, how you can, for the 6 to 8 months of winter we have, really work on and hone on your game. He's got some amazing systems there. It's all very reasonably affordable pricing. Talk to Jason at the Golfers Academy. You can find them on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, or on their website. For more details, hit me up, sold@kenparkin.com. This interview, and there's actually probably going to be about 15 videos of smaller segments. We're going to be going live probably end of this week. It might be beginning of next week, depending on editing times, but look forward to that. We have a lot more business interviews coming, so stay tuned. Thank you so much for listening. Listen, go and have a great Wednesday. We're halfway through the week. Enjoy the rest of the day.